We can see what's going on here. I am so sorry. It always takes me a minute. I think we can see what's going on here. I am so sorry. It always takes me a minute to get everything where we can see everything. So I am just getting set up as I always am when we first get here. So it takes me a second just to get configured here. So right now I'm just going to grab some colors that we might use today. I'm going to do a little bit of a different kind of color mixing today. I think I'm not going to go with just primaries. I think I'm going to open up my color palette just a little bit and do a slightly different kind of a limited. I'm still going to do a limited palette, but I'm not going to go as much with that primary color palette. I'm going to use a different kind of a color palette today. So I'm going to use, I think, olive green, burnt sienna. Then I want to use maybe the primary magenta, which is going to be our red. Okay, I'm going to put that out. Burnt sienna is an earth tone, which has a reddish hue to it. I'm going to use, I think for the blue, I'm going to do the Payne's Gray, which I'm kind of digging through I'm always fussing around in here, and I'm digging through my little box of paint here looking for it. I usually keep my paint fairly organized, but I've been doing a lot of painting lately, and sometimes it hasn't been going back where it belongs. Here it is. I have a Payne's Gray. I have, let me think what else I need here. And I'm trying to see. Payne's Gray. I think I want to grab maybe, just trying to think. I think I want to grab one more blue, like a cerulean. And then when I'm looking in my box, one of my paints does not have a cap, and that drives me insane. It must have just happened because it's still fresh as a daisy, so I'm like, that's going to drive me crazy until I find it. I don't know how that happens sometimes. All right, so what I'm going to do is not get stressed out over that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for the cerulean blue instead of stressing out about the no cap paint, because I can steal one off of one that's dry or old and put on a new cap. That's what I'm going to do. All right, so what I'm going to do right now is try to hunt down my cerulean blue, which I think I see. Let's see. Is this in any kind of condition? No, here we go. So I found a new cap for my Hansa yellow, because that tube of paint is cooked. All right, so we're going to just pretend that that always went on there. And then I'm going to find my other tube of cerulean blue, which I have a brand new one of. These are my fresh paper towels, which I always need. Okay. And then I know I have a brand new one because I just bought one, so I know it's in here. I have all the blue together. That's why sometimes it goes to the bottom when I'm throwing things back into the pile here. If I can't find cerulean, I'll just use something else, but I don't think I have to do that. I think I can find it. All right, let's see. What is this? Oh no, that's not it. All right, I'm just gonna go with this then. All right. Okay, I think we're good. I think that's what we're gonna use. And then I'm always gonna use my trusty white. And then we will mix, I don't really have any yellow in this palette, but I don't really need it. And then I think we'll mix, maybe put a little white into it. So I have my white. And then I'm just going to be drawing, just gonna draw a little portrait, and then from that, I think what I'll do is I will add some, you know, floral and other kinds of patterns into the background. I haven't decided yet. I'm just gonna kind of do maybe one from imagination today, and then we'll see what happens from there. Okay, so, and I usually am a big fan of portrait orientation, but today I'm gonna do one that's more of a landscape. And then I'm gonna fill the sides with like, you know, foliage and other things today. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna do a little drawing here. Hold on. So I'm gonna put, now once you know these proportions, you can do the same thing. You can, once the proportions are burned into your brain, you can start making portraits out of your head without having to think about it. So here I'm doing, you know, the oval shape, right? And I like it a little bit more narrow at the base, but halfway down, I'm gonna put in, I'm gonna put some eyes, and I like to do, the proportion is that we know that there's room for 5 eyes. Sometimes my eyes come out a little bit bigger. It's just kind of how I draw. But I know, I know that the proportion is really 5 across. Okay, so that's really, I understand and know that. But sometimes my eyes come out a little bigger. It's probably just part of my drawing style at this point, you know. And so I'm gonna make her eyelids, and I'm just, and then halfway between the eyes and the chin, which is going to be here, is the bottom of the nose. Okay, so I'm going to indicate that here. And then the halfway between the bottom of the nose and the bottom of the chin is the bottom of the lip. Okay, so we also know that the edges of our lips line up with the center of our pupil. Okay, so the middle of that mouth or lip shape is that center line. Okay, so I'm going to put that in, and then kind of use that while I'm creating the lips or that lip shape. Okay, so the face kind of just comes together once you know those proportions. And then I'm going to kind of block in where her eyebrows would go. And this kind of just, you know, blocks everything in for me. And I don't have to have a reference if I don't want one, you know. So I'm just creating this without a reference. And I'm going to give her, you know, the indications of, a, you know, some clothing here. I know her shoulders are going to come out, you know, probably around here. But I really want to fill up the rest of this picture plane with, you know, flowers and that kind of thing. So I'm going to do another flattened portrait, which is what we've been talking about on this channel, and it's still going to have elements of value and form. It's not going to be completely flat. If it was completely flat, it would have no volume whatsoever. It wouldn't have any kind of value. It would be one flat shape. Okay, so this is going to have, this will have some modeling, some value, all that stuff. Okay. We're going to do all that. And I'm going to add, I don't know, I'm going to make some flowers, I think. And those also, I think I'm just going to make them up. You know, sometimes I do that, and you know, I really love flowers and flower forms, and sometimes what I do when I'm doing this is I'm thinking more like, you know, what kind of flowers, what kind of pretend flowers can I make when I don't have a reference, a visual reference? And that's okay, because I've played with this stuff for so long that I can kind of think, you know, things up, and that's what I do. Okay, so I'm gonna make kind of big floral shapes today, and I just want them to have some kind of details and things like that. So I'm just gonna come in and, you know, I may or may not stick to some of the drawing that I'm doing, but I want some ideas down. And I just want it to be lively and have some, I kind of want it to have a little bit of personality, but it can still be playful, right? And I want to include some interesting elements, small flowers, large flowers. I want to, you know, have some leaves. So that's what I'm doing here. Let me just see what else. I want a variety of things in the background of this. Trying to think. So I'm just, if you're a gardener or somebody who has house plants, I mean, you can just kind of think about, you know, the kinds of plants that you grow, or you can just make a pattern. I mean, even something simple like a color black pattern would work in your background. I just happen to really think that plants make it really interesting. I really like foliage in my paintings, so I tend to add a lot of flowers into my work. So that's what I'm doing here. I think I'm going to put one more here and just see how that comes out. And they're disproportionate to the person, and that's fine. I mean, because I'm kind of painting in a more kind of like more contemporary style, so you know, anything kind of goes with what I'm doing here. And because I'm painting in acrylic paint, most of the drawing will be covered up, right? So, all right. So I think I can get started. So what I'm gonna do is I'm always gonna start with my, oh, you know what I didn't put on the table is my fresh water, which I have sitting right here. All right, I'm gonna grab that now. I have my fresh painting water all ready, and then I didn't put it out. I like to have a lot of water because I really hate when the water is dirty and I can't, I really like to have, so I have like 3 clean waters here because I really hate I hate dirty water when I'm painting because the water it gets so dirty when you're painting. So I really don't like that at all. So here I go. I'm putting my matte medium down, and this is what I always add when I'm painting for flow. And I'm gonna just start putting my colors out now. So I'm gonna put, this is the, oh my goodness. I always have a little bit of a technical difficulty. Sometimes these paint containers just really, this is liquid paint, but it's a little old, so it's coming out like almost like heavy body at this point, but that's fine. It's a little bit more liquidy. It's absolutely fine. All right, so now I'm gonna add my colors. I'm using regular, I have 2 blues on my palette today. So I'm using Payne's Gray, which looks black when it comes out, but it is very blue, okay? And then I'm gonna use, I'm using Cobalt Blue today because I could not find my Cerulean Blue, but I'm not gonna worry about it. We'll just grab a different one, it's fine. Okay, so now I'm gonna use Burnt Sienna, which is a red earth tone, kind of a earthy red. And then I'm using Primary Magenta. I'm using Olive Green, which is a very earthy green. Okay. I'm gonna squish that baby out. And then I'm gonna also use, it's a very soft green, which I really like. And then I think I'm gonna put a little white out. I have a brand new white I can't wait to get into, but this is the end of my giant tube of titanium white, and I'm gonna put 2 squishes out because I always use so much, and then when I end up having to go back, hopefully we'll finish this one today, and then I can start my brand new giant tube of white paint. Now let me check in with my chat to see if anyone is here on my chat yet. Okay, let's see. Oh, I do. I see a bunch of people in my chat. Hi, Leonine, Bo. I always mess up. Hi, everyone. Neva, is that it? Am I saying it right? I probably am massacring your name, but I apologize. Anne Herna, right? Hi, hello everybody. I'm so glad you're here. And if I messed up your name, please don't be mad at me. So I'm gonna get started mixing and painting. Okay, so I think the other color I'm going to add today, and I'm not going to mix this, I apologize, I'm not mixing from scratch today. I'm going to just add a little bit of buff titanium, which is the color that it's almost already beige. So sometimes I use this for skin tones when I don't feel like mixing them from scratch, and I feel like just painting. So, I'm grabbing my big pile of paintbrushes in the sizes that I think I'm gonna use. And I have a whole bunch of them. People have been asking me about these. These are the mostly Princeton Aspen paintbrushes. They, I have a bunch of sizes. I don't tend to use the gigantic ones all that much, but I do really like these for painting. and they hold up really well, and I really do like these. I use them for oil too, so they're for acrylic and oil. I like the Princeton watercolor brushes too. I have the Aqua Elite for the watercolors, and I really like those too. Princeton brushes aren't crazy expensive, and they tend to really last quite a while, so I really like them for painting. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm never going to use anything straight out of the... I rarely use colors straight out of the bottle, especially when I'm going for, you know, like a face color. I'm not going to use it like that. So I'm going to mix this up because that's just not enough variation for me. So I'm going to take some of my matte medium immediately, mix it into this. I'm going to add a little white and make a lighter version of it. But I'm also going to go in and add some pink into it, some of the magenta into it, because I want to make it a little bit more rosy, because it's really just very flat the way it comes out of the tube. It just doesn't have enough life in it. So, and then I'm going to make a lighter version of it like that. And then I'm going to also go in, take a little bit of the burnt sienna, and I'm going to make, because burnt sienna is like, I don't want to call it a brown because it's really like a reddish brown, but I'm going to make a darker version of it with that, because it's kind of a very red earth tone. So we'll have two, you know, we're having 3 values now. So 3 values of the 1, 2, 3 values of the buff titanium, and you can see how much more yellow it was originally. And I'm gonna hold it up so people can really get a look at it. And let me just see how this is looking on my stream. Okay, now I'm sorry, my camera is a little tilty. Let me see if that helped. I just want you to be able to see. Okay, that's way better. Okay. I want you to be able to see the color mixing, and every once in a while, this thing will get moved. Okay, I think you can see better now what I'm doing. I apologize for that, because I really try to keep it so you guys can see what I'm doing with the colors. Mixing the colors is really important. Okay, so let me hold it up again. You can see where the buff titanium is very yellow. So you really do have to add in something else to it. So I added the primary magenta into it and a little matte medium to mix it. And then I added, this is the burnt sienna. I added a little bit of a darker value. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to add a cooler, darker value here, okay? Because you always want to have a little bit of a cooler, darker value as well. That's a little bit too cool. So I'm going to add a little bit more of this, okay? And a little bit more of the burnt sienna. And we're going to make a cooler, darker value for the really dark shadow places, okay? So you want to have a little bit more blue and a little bit more burnt sienna in here. And you just play with it until you get the color you want. And blue is very strong when you're using these earth tones. But now that's a nice cool dark value that we can use in this painting. Okay, so you know, mixing color is just something you kind of work with a little bit. And usually I use my palette knife. Right now I'm just kind of messing around a little bit with my brush. I do it. You're not really supposed to, but I do it. Sometimes when I get excited about painting, I get in there a little bit too much with my brush. Okay, so now I'm going to go in. And I'm going to do the lightest values first, which is what I always do. I'm going to go in for the lightest values on the face first, okay? And usually those are the forehead, the nose, and you know, the forehead, because that's where the light hits first. And that's true for everyone, no matter what ethnicity you are. It does not matter. Everybody has light values and dark values in their face. So you're going to have places on your face where the light hits, the bulb of your nose, the bridge of your nose, most of the time it'll be like your forehead. And we usually have one side of our face that gets more light than the other side of our face, okay? So I'm going to do this, these lighter places first. And it just kind of helps define those places. So I had a really fun painting workshop that I taught yesterday, and it was based on the Hockney. I have a video on my channel about the painting in the manner of Hockney, and it was kind of like, you know, an extended version of that, which was really fun. And I've been teaching at the same arts center for many years, and it's really fun to get out and teach live once in a while, because I really enjoy the people so much. You know, it's really fun when I'm able to get into a studio with humans, real humans. It's really fun. I really like that. I used to do quite a bit more workshops and live teaching than I'm currently doing, so I do miss seeing everyone, seeing the live people, the real people. And I want to get back to doing more of that, because I love to see everyone. But I like doing this too. This is fun. All right, so this is the darker side of the face. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to get started. I want to just get a layer down here. And then I'm going to get in some of these darker values on this side of the face. Okay. I'm going to give my paint a little bit of a swish with my spray bottle here. Hold on. Sometimes I mist over the whole thing. Acrylic dries so fast, it's very helpful to do that. If you're painting, I always like to add just a little bit more rosiness while my paint is still wet. And if it's a little bit too much, I just go back in and blend over it with my paint. But it still comes through. That rosiness will still come through. Okay, so I'm gonna just add those layers in. Acrylic is always done in layers, so it always looks like a hot mess in the beginning, but as you start to add additional layers, it starts to really balance out and look more alive, I guess. So I'm coming back over here, but I don't want to really lighten that side up too much. This is my lighter side, so I don't care if I put a lot of light paint on this side. Now, I'm trying to avoid black today, so I'm going to show you how I create kind of a, you know, a dark neutral color. So I'm going to just kind of combine a lot of these, all the colors actually. I'm going to grab a lot of them and I'm just going to mix them down into a real dark. So I'm taking some of the green and I'm mixing it with some of the red, which is obviously a complementary mix, but I'm also going to mix a little bit of all these other colors in too, and it'll come into a very dark neutral color, okay? And that will create almost what we're going to use as our kind of a very dark, our darkest value, okay? And so you can either create a very dark value by using complementary colors, or you can just mix a whole bunch of different colors together like I just did and create like a very dark neutral. Okay, so right now I'm going to come in with that dark neutral I just created. I'm adding a little matte medium so I can get a better flow. I have a smaller brush and I'm going to do some of these, you know, the eyes. I kind of want to get in and you know, define some of these places on her face. So sometimes I think like once we kind of wake them up a little bit, you know, you're a little bit more invested in the person. Once they start to look back a little bit at you. Um, and because I blocked all that in before and I can still see where I put those marks, we can come in and just get those basic lines down. I'm gonna put in the middle line for her lips. And then I'm gonna mix something very light, a little bit of a light color for her lips, and just start blocking those in a little bit. So when I'm using, no, we don't, I normally don't advise using water with acrylic paint because it degrades the paint. Okay, so normally acrylic paint is actually designed to be used with medium. So what we do, and it's, and a lot of people, it's really hard because people don't actually know about it and it's never really explained, but I try to talk about it almost every week. So matte medium or gloss medium is actually the exact same thing as the paint without pigment in it. And so it's designed to increase flow, It's designed to mix paint, and it's designed to be used with the paint kind of the same way that oil painting mediums are designed to be used with oil paint. So it's actually better to use that, and we just wash the brushes in water, okay? So when you're actually mixing your paint or painting with paint, you should be using like matte medium or gloss medium if you prefer the glossy finish. I use matte medium, and then if I want a glossy finish, I use gloss varnish over the top. So that's what you're really supposed to be using, a medium of some sort that's designed for acrylic painting when you're painting, okay? Yeah, it'll make it's a game changer, honestly. So I prefer and use all the time. I love Liquitex. It's actually, I mean, I've used all the more expensive ones like Golden and stuff. I really like these Liquitex mediums. They're really great. This is the only brand I really buy anymore, and it doesn't matter if they're more expensive. Some of the cheaper ones though, I don't like because they don't dry as clear, and you might get a foggy finish, which I don't like at all. So Liquitex is the one that I go with all the time. So if you will find that you're having better results if you're using a medium. I always feel like I'm on a bandwagon when I do it every week, and then I feel guilty. But I really think it's important to talk about. All right, so I'm going to put in some darker shadows now that this part has dried. I tend to work around the painting a lot when I'm painting. And then I just go in and do my, my shadows and things. So even though I'm using flattening, I'm still doing some values. I mean, and using values. And I'm using a little bit of the blue in this darkest value, because when we're using a cooler tone, cooler tones recede and warm tones come forward. So we can kind of use that a little bit while we're painting to push things back in our paintings and pull things forward in our paintings. And so that's why when we're working around eye sockets or underneath places we want to push back, we can actually do that by just adding a little bit of a cool color to them. So just by putting that little bit of blue in, I'm able to push back certain areas of the painting. Okay, I'm gonna go here into this really dark value and just go a little bit around the chin to define it. Okay. Now, the reason I don't just go for the tube of black paint is because, and I tend to mix my blacks or mix a dark neutral, is because black will really flatten your paint, your painting out. Okay, so I'm gonna just like kind of pop in some hair, and this is the dark neutral I created by using all the colors that I have on my palette. Okay. And if so, I know I can make more if I run out. Okay, I'm not going to stress out if I don't have enough. I know I can make it again. And right now, I'm just going to put it in and make her some hair. I just want to get down general information. There's more to do on the face or the person. I'm just getting in some basic information right now. I actually worked for a paint company. I worked for Grumbacher for a while, and it's really surprising, like how many people don't even know about the painting mediums. It always surprised me. People just don't talk about it, and it's really important. Like when acrylic paint first came out, it was like the latest thing, and nobody really there wasn't any mediums at that point. I think they just sold the paint, and there wasn't a lot of education done at the time. It and you know, people really just didn't know what to do with it. You know, so there wasn't a whole lot of education about it. So I think more needs to be done, because it can be really frustrating to use unless you have all the information you need and the right materials to go with it. It works so much better if you have what you need. It's like anything else, really. So I know that this is reading black, but it really is kind of a very dark, neutral brown. Very, very dark, almost black, not quite. I'm sure it's showing up as black on the camera. Okay. All right, we're going to leave that. And now I'm going to go into the background. And there's more stuff to do on the face. You know, I'm just going to leave it there right now while I work on some other things. And I really want to get into this. This particular green that I'm using today is olive green. And I always really liked it because when you put it on really thick, it's really dark. But then if you really, and this is the other thing you can do with the medium, is this medium, you can create what's called a glaze with it. So the more you put on, the more you can, the more thinly you can apply the paint. Okay, so it can, you can create what's called a glaze with it. So for my first layer on some of these leaves, I'm just going to create a glaze with the medium. Okay. And I might create a second color with it, with some of the blue. And I'm going to make a different, some different blue-green leaves for some of the other plants. The olive is a really fun color because you can dilute it with the medium so much that it's almost yellow green, but then when you really get into the using it thicker, it's like a deep, rich green. It can do a lot of different things depending on how you apply it. It's a really it's kind of a fun color because it can go really transparent or it can be um, really thick. It all depends on how you put it down on the paper or canvas. And I'm using hot press paper, which I tend to love because it's very smooth, and I like a smooth surface when I'm working. Um, I'm using hot press watercolor paper, and that's what I really like when I paint on paper, anyway. I never try to be perfect when I'm doing any of this stuff. I want this stuff to all be really expressive, especially on these little paintings that I'm doing. During live stream, I'm always trying to do kind of more. These are more to me like a study because I'm really trying to work out ideas and things like that. This is the Payne's Gray. Now, Payne's Gray is a very blue kind of gray. And in some paintings, you can really use that in place of your blue. So in the Zorn palette, which is a limited palette, it's used to replace blue. So I just added a little bit more of the other blue, the cobalt, and I'm just gonna paint a little bit into her eye with that because I'm giving her a very subtle blue-gray eye. And I'm just gonna give her just a hint of a highlight on both of her eyes. A little highlight on both sides, and then I want to go back in and really give her a dark pupil there. Okay. And that really, like, that'll really wake it up, you know, and then she's really starts to look back at us, you know, and that's what I want. I want to see that when I want to see her start, you know, looking back and starting to look really alive. That's important. Then I start to like feel like I'm more engaged with the painting, and I don't know, it just seems like I get more engaged in what's going to happen and the rest of the dialogue of what I'm creating and stuff. So I kind of like that. I'm taking more of that dark value, and the last round, what happened was that it got a little bit more red, which I love it because what happened with that is now that I'm putting some details into the leaves and things, that's giving me just a little bit, and it's so subtle that most people wouldn't even pick up on it, but it's giving me just a tiny complementary pop on these leaves. And I just wanted to give them more energy. So what I'm doing is giving them some mark making, okay? So I'm coming in with that dark value around the edges of the leaves, and I'm just giving them a zhuzh, a little zhuzh. I'm creating some movement, and I'm just doing a little bit of mark making with that dark value. Okay. And that's, it's very subtle, but it makes a huge difference in when the piece will be finished. Okay, so now I'm going to use some of that burnt sienna, and I'm going to come in and do some of the details on the flowers, and I'm going to want to add, I think we're going to start making the interior parts of the flowers and all that stuff. That, you know, making the flowers and doing the, this is kind of fun. This is, I always think of this as kind of the fun stuff, right? So I'm going to come in with some of these elements of the flowers, right? So I'm going to come in and do all of that stuff. Now there's quite a few little details I want to add in here on this flower. And some of these I want to be, I want it to look like kind of like seeds here. Okay. And when I mix it with just the matte medium, it gets, you know, almost thin and washy, like um, like a, okay. All right. Is it snowing where everybody else is? Because we're having a blizzard today, and you know, that's not my favorite. I'm not a big fan of the blizzard, you know. But I guess there's nothing better to do than paint, because I really, painting actually is, it makes me happy. So even though blizzards don't make me happy, painting always makes me happy. So I guess there could be worse things to do on a blizzardy day. All right, let's see. All right, now I want to make some really pale green here, and I might add a smidge of white to that because I want a really soft, I want a really soft green for some of these interiors of these flowers, like that. So I added just a little bit of the white. This color, I absolutely, I can't even say like enough, like how much. I think that this olive green color acrylic paint is like so versatile. You can do so much with this. I just really love it. It's you know, it's a little bit transparent, so sometimes it can be a little bit, it can be a little bit difficult to work with, but there's so much you can do with it that I go back to it a lot. It's one of my favorite colors. It's a really soft, it's a soft green, and I feel like it's really versatile. Now, when we're using this much green with with the red, we're getting that nice complementary color pop, which is something I always love. And the green and the red really look amazing together. So when this painting is done, you'll have that really nice color pop. Now there's a little white flower that goes into her head, and when the whole background is painted out, you'll be able to see that. And I probably should add, I'm not sure if I should add another one somewhere else. Maybe not. Okay, so anyway, we're gonna do some magenta, and I may soften some of that up as well with a little bit of white and some medium. And we're just gonna open that up and then go into these other flowers, because I don't want those to go too dark. I want them to be kind of lovely and washy also. Okay. I want them to be this lighter, maybe even lighter than that. I'm like, maybe even pinker. Yeah, I like that better. All right, because those, yeah, this is more like the color I was looking for. Okay, I'm gonna do this color pink. And I love that against all these dark red, which these are like little seeds that I put down earlier. Okay. And I don't want to leave any, like, I don't want to leave any, what do you call it? Paper showing. You know, I don't want to leave, even when something is, like, say I'm painting and you know, and something's going to be white, I'm going to paint it white. I'm not going to leave the paper or the canvas or anything like that. I'm always going to paint it that color. And very often, I'm going to add something to, if it's going to be white, I'm going to add something to that white. Because sometimes white, you know, both white and black can be too much, you know, by themselves. I really feel like that. They're too much on their own, very often. And even though I am flattening, I am adding variation on these flowers. Like maybe one's going to be lighter than the other ones. And sometimes I mix, you know, right on the painting itself. And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just adding this petal is going to be a little bit, maybe a little lighter than the other ones. You just have variations. Nature has variations. So sometimes we just need to do that. Okay. Don't be afraid to make things, you know, vary your colors, vary your marks, vary everything, you know, change things up when you're painting. Now this I'm going to do. And sometimes I just dash down my drawing and then I just, you know, fix that as I'm painting. You know what I mean? I just kind of scribble down the scribble the drawing down, and then I go back in as I'm painting, and I just, you know, I edit some of that out, you know. I'm like, wow, I just kind of scratch that in. It's like chicken scratch, and then I just fix it. The drawing is just like it's just like information, you know, preliminary information that can be changed. The painting can be changed, the drawing can be changed. You could change any part of this at any part of the process. Um, you don't like the way something's working, just change it. It's a big deal. You should always feel like you could change things. That's what's so, I think that that's what makes acrylic the easiest, because acrylic, you really can easily change things. I mean, it's just the easiest to change of all the painting mediums. It's way easier to change things or change your mind in acrylic. Starting to look at this last flower here. I still want to do this color. I really like the color, so I'm going to mix more of both the really light tint that I'm making here with the white and the magenta. This is the primary magenta. It's a very cool red, okay? So it's a cool red as opposed to like a cadmium red, which is a darker red. So once we start putting that in next to the green, you're gonna really see that complementary pop happening. And that's, you know, that's how you get dynamic color palettes happening in your paintings, is when you start using complementary colors. You'll start to see really fun color interactions happening, okay? So red and green are complementary colors, and blue and orange are complementary colors. Anything that is opposite each other on the color wheel are complements, and will make each other vibrate when they're placed next to each other or even in the same painting. It will have that effect. But especially when they're right next to each other, they will really vibrate. And when I was using the burnt sienna, all earth tones, and even though this is a red, it's a very warm. All earth tones are warm. Okay, so even though this is another red, it's very warm because it's an earth tone. All earth tones are warm. right. Okay. All right, we got to go back into our green here, right here. And I'm going to use some of that lighter green again. Go back in here. Okay. Put a little bit of color up here. Sometimes I like to go back and just see. Okay, let me just see here. Okay. All right. So I think what I'm gonna do for her clothes is I'm gonna mix the paints with a little bit of the other blue and create a dark, kind of dark gray here. Yeah, that's what I think I'm gonna do. In here. And then I'm going to just do that as a glaze here. And yeah. That's what I'm going to use as my color. So I'm going to mix more of that. I'm going to go right in with the panes, and this is the cobalt. And I'm mixing it up nicely together and just adding the matte medium into it because I want a nice dark gray color here. I'm going to get a different brush. I kind of want it I'm going to get it covered, and then I'm going to make some kind of texture with it, I think, is what I'm going to do. I just want to get the color on first, and then I'm going to play with the texture a little bit, I think. And I want a kind of dark color here. All right. So once I have it down where I want it, I'm really going to play with how it's applied. So your brush strokes really do carry a lot of energy, and they can say a lot about, it's another way to add marks and interest. In your work. So I'm going to do this. Everybody does this part of their painting differently. So you might be somebody who likes not a lot of visible brushwork. Some people do, you know, want everything very smooth and even, and they don't like a lot of brushworks. And other people put in a lot of active brushworks in their paintings. So it's very personal, and not, you know, no way is the right way. There's no right way or wrong way to do it. I just whipped in some white into this, and I'm going to add a little bit of detail on the collar because I just want to bring in more marks, but also a little bit more detail on this, on her clothes. Okay, I'm gonna maybe I want it to look like she's wearing like a knit kind of sweater or something, so with a texture. So I'm gonna kind of pull that down across the front of her sweater. It's gonna be subtle, so it's, I don't know if it'll show up on the camera, but I wanted it to look like she's wearing kind of a hand knit sweater, and that's what I'm doing right now. it'll be on the, I usually change the picture on the live stream. After I post it the following day, because I normally, I usually change it out to whatever I painted during the session. So you'll be able to see it better after I post this. It usually takes about 24 hours for this to come back up, but you'll be able to see the picture when I'm done. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come up with a background color for this painting. And I have to, I guess I'll just do it right here. And I'm going to take a lot of white and I'm going to make a very pale blue, I think, background color for this painting. So I used the cobalt and lots of white. I put a big blob of titanium white, and I always use titanium. And I know I talk about it all the time, but I use it because it's the most opaque. Now, none of the other whites are as opaque, and that is why I use it. So here I am just like shoveling in the that medium to make it flow better while I do the background. Okay, so that's what I'm doing, and I'm gonna just go in and I'm gonna just do my background. And I'm doing it carefully because I don't want to paint over any of the bits. I'm going to get a smaller brush for going in and out of that really skinny fern that I made up here. I have this little fern that I made. So I kind of want to get in and out of there without messing the fern up. And there's parts of the fern that, you know, maybe I messed up a little bit. That's okay, because if I go over any of it, I'm just going to go back in. Because it's acrylic, I can fix it. If I, you know, I'm not worried about it. And in any case, if I mess it up, I can go right back over it because it's acrylic. It's not like a watercolor or a gouache. We don't worry about it too much. If I paint into any of the areas that I don't want to paint into, I can easily fix it very quickly. So I really try not to stress out when I'm painting. I find it very relaxing, and I rarely worry about if I mess up or any of that stuff, I don't even consider it messing up. I just keep painting. All right. The Payne's Gray mixture that I put on the outfit looked so blue when I put it on, and now because we made this really bright blue, now it just reads as like so dark, like the dark neutral I knew it was when I made it, but it looks so blue when I first put it on that it fools your eye until you see something else next to it, really. It's really weird. If anybody has questions, please pop them into the chat because I'll be here for a while, but I'm almost done with this painting. I see a couple things that need to be touched, but we are winding down. I like this light blue in the background a lot. I really feel like when you add these colors, I think yellow would have worked really great, but we didn't have yellow. And sometimes doing these limited color palettes really make you have to work with what you have, which is, that can be a challenge, but it also can really help you work within a limited amount of colors, and that's also a really good exercise. So I don't always do that, but sometimes it's a good idea. Sometimes working with a full range of colors can be very overwhelming. I had a whole bunch of people in my class yesterday who had a full range of colors, and it can be overwhelming when you're first learning to paint. To have that many colors open to you, because especially if you're not comfortable with doing a lot of color mixing, or you don't fully understand color theory. Sometimes less is more. When you have less, every single color you mix is going to go together. All these colors work together because we mix them all from just a handful of colors. So we already know they're going to work. All these colors work together because they're all mixed from each other. And that's one of the reasons we do this. And there's that flower. That flower was so hidden. Oh my goodness. You couldn't even see it was there until we painted the background. It was well hidden until we did that. And yeah, I could make that pop out more and redefine it and add details. I'm not going to. I'm just going to leave it like that. I like it. That's part of flattening. It's just that the color, instead of creating lines sometimes, defines an object. Sometimes we can make a line around something, and sometimes the color just becomes the border. Okay, sometimes the other shape or the other color can become the border of an object. Like here we used a line, and here we used a color to define a shape or an object. It doesn't mean we're totally ignoring values or we're totally ignoring modeling or shaping things. Okay, well, if anybody has any questions, you could ask them now, because I think I'm going to leave it here. I'm just going to pull off the tape. This is the best part. I love pulling the tape off. It's my favorite part. Oh my goodness. I love the edges when we pull off the tape. So much fun. It's very satisfying. It's my favorite part. I love this. Oh. It's super satisfying to pull off the tape at the end. Okay. So if you guys have any questions for me, please pop them in the chat and I will be happy to answer for you. Otherwise, I'm going to probably leave it here. And I'm usually here every Sunday at 1. I'll be here next week. And I'll have a video this week as well. All right, I'm gonna say goodbye, everybody. And I will see you during the week with a new video and next week for chat on Sunday at 1. Thanks for being here. Please come again soon.